All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Finally, at long last, despite Tesla's greatest efforts, we finally got full self-driving beta. We've got version 10.4. There's a lot I have to say because there's a lot I didn't say throughout the whole process in which we didn't get full self-driving beta for now over a year, from version 8 to version 9 to version 10, so on and so forth. Mrs. Black Tesla, in her infinite wisdom, has advised me not to talk about that whole process and ordeal in this particular video because it'll eat up the whole video. So we'll make a separate video about my thoughts on the rollout process, what Tesla did right, what Tesla did wrong in the process. When we talk about FSDBeta 10.4, we have to understand that there are a lot of people already who have this beta software in their car. Tons and tons of videos. Everyone wants to jump on YouTube. Everyone wants to showcase what the car is doing and give their expert advice. And so you can watch anyone. You can watch whoever you'd like. However, if you watch this particular channel, or if you have been watching this particular channel, you understand that we're giving insight that a lot of others can't give just based on our tenure and our experience being owners with Tesla. Okay, so just for Tesla's reference and for everyone else's reference that's watching the channel, we're coming at this from 6+ years of ownership, over 5 Teslas and over 60,000 miles on autopilot, right? So we're giving you the insight of how autopilot has evolved over time since its initial release. Again, today we're just going to talk about full self-driving beta, my impressions of it, my thoughts of it. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to just reproduce the baseline drive we did way back when, where we went home. We drove from a supercharger to home. That's the use case. That's the scenario that we're going to be testing out today, making sure that we can get home because we're tired, we're fatigued, or we just can't drive or don't feel like driving right now. We're going to use these useful use cases that make sense for real world conditions. Okay, so let's jump right into it right now. All right, so we're talking about full self-driving beta 10.4. Put it in gear. We're right in a supercharger. We're going to put it in gear right now. I'll darken this a bit because it's pretty sunny, and we'll jump into it. All right. So we have it active. We have it on the screen here. I'll throw up the cameras just so we can see that and see that perspective. It is active. The new visualizations will be there once I go into drive, and then we're off to the races. All right. Now, because this is beta and because it's full self-driving beta specifically, I'm going to be a little bit extra vigilant with the Plaid here. Obviously, during the timing of this video, Plaids are still kind of hard to come by. Parts are still kind of hard to come by. So I'm not going to be as free as I typically would with this vehicle. And so I'll keep my hand on the wheel at all times, being vigilant as I should, because it's beta, it's early beta, is really what it is, because everything that Tesla produces is beta. So it's just early beta. And I'll let it go for turning, because turning with the yoke is kind of awkward to try to hold on to it. So as you see immediately, I can press drive. I'll start to pull out, and I'll actually pull out of this gas station / supercharger because I don't trust the drivers here. All right, so here we go. Visualizations look wonderful, showing more of the expanded world around the car. And I'll give a little bit of a story time when we get on the highway. For the preface here, we're going to talk about the fact that the full self-driving suite is what it is. And I don't know how we just got to just FSDBeta, this blanket term. Now, I'm not going to get into these kind of negotiations because the lines are kind of hard to see. Some people don't obey the signs in this particular lot. So I'm not going to let it active now. I am going to put it active once I get prepared and queued up for this light. Okay. Double click, activates, and it goes right into it. Shows me what it's seeing, shows me what turn lane it's going to go. You have the pathfinder there as well. Now, again, as I was saying, full self-driving comes in 2 variants: highway and city streets. This is the city streets variant of autopilot, while full self-driving, the highway variant, has been out for a while and people have been using it. It's pretty rock solid. All right, so you put it together, it's effectively autopilot or full self-driving, and it consists of those 2 elements. So when we talk about how these are constructed, we have what's known as a code stack, where you have the city streets version running its own stack, and then you have the navigate on autopilot, the highway version of that, running its own stack. So it's not a unified stack. So if you hear the term unified stack on social media, that's what we're talking about, having all the code be the same and similar and use the same guidance and functionality. Okay, creeping up a little bit slow here. Again, I'm going to take my hands off for the turn, and then I'll jump back on. Pretty good, pretty solid. Hard to stay engaged with the yoke, but I'll re-engage. Very sensitive the yoke is, and any slight maneuver because it's not round is a little bit problematic. Hard turn into the debris. Again, disengaged, not a good sign. Can't engage on the turn here. I am still in cruise, but my foot is hovering. Now re-engage, navigate, FSDBeta, or city streets I'll start to call it, is re-engaging. And then it's gonna switch over to the highway variant, navigate on autopilot in just a minute once we get to the proper highway. Merges nicely, nice and smooth, and now it switches and changes. See that? So that's a different code base that we're looking at. We're switching from one code base, one code logic that says, hey, you can take streets, you can make turns, you can see all these types of obstacles, to another code logic that just says, hey, you're on the highway, we want you to go straight, and we want you to make lane changes, interchanges, and things like that, and go this set speed. Okay, so the visualization changes, and the visualization, depending on the road, may also change back to the city streets visualization, which is more detailed and more depth, depending on where you are. Giving the yoke a little bit of pull here just to make sure it's compliant with how it wants to work. All right, and now we're just pretty much cruising. This is rock solid, has been rock solid for a while. It's been refined over time. No complaints here. In my opinion, better than Super Cruise, better than Blue Pilot or anything else out there on the market, in our opinion, based on our experience. Okay, so speaking of experience, let's talk about a little bit of story time, because we were on the highway for a little bit. We're gonna get off in just a few. Let's talk story time. Let's talk about experience. Let's talk about, how this has evolved over time. Just looking at it right now, this is pretty phenomenal that it's gotten here. Would have preferred it to be sort of a surprise, but it is what it is. We'll talk about that in another video. But it's pretty interesting. This autopilot system, when it first came out back in early 2015, had no restrictions. It had no nags, it had no speed limit restrictions, and it was very, very valuable, but also very scary, sitting on the sort of the bleeding edge of technology, testing it out as an owner, and not knowing, much about what it would entail. No real detailed release notes. There were some release notes of what to expect, but nothing else. You're pretty much, on your own. So to see this system evolve to where it is now, it's very familiar to how the early betas were, or the alphas were in other instances of autopilot, where you have to be extra vigilant, extra cautious, and it's about the car reacting to the world around you more than anything else, right? So people are unpredictable, and the car being able to handle those unpredictable scenarios is really what it's all about. And you being prepared to take over, you being prepared to help and support the car in its journey and trying to deal with the unpredictability of people and roads and, construction zones potentially, or things that might pop up at random. So that's the fun of it. That's the joy of it. And that's the challenge of it, obviously, for Tesla and team. But it is what it is. All right, so again, very smooth, very rock solid, no problem. And as I watched beta roll out for different variants of autopilot, navigate on autopilot, enhance autopilot, so on and so forth, you get to see how Tesla's learning and growing from the things that they've seen and the data that they've collected and gathered. However, I do think that they're a little bit soft in this particular Northeast area in terms of data gathering and data collecting, in terms of, having beta testers here and alpha testers here and employees that have the cars that can test out here. This is a different beast up here in the Northeast, in terms of traffic conditions, in terms of drivers as well. So again, Tesla you should definitely consider seeding your research in this area, having more people in this area that have experience with autopilot, that have experience with betas, that have experience working on your teams and your early software to provide you feedback and data from these areas. It's not just straight wide open roads. It's not a scenario where, give it a little bit of a nudge here. It's not just, multiple lane changes. And I've disengaged, all right? So I'll re-engage. All right, 60, I'll go to 65. 65. Again, very hard to not disengage with the yoke. Easier with the wheel because you can sort of let the wheel glide in your hands. Because of the angular nature of the yoke, it's a little bit difficult to hold without disengaging it. So I'm going to try one hand, see if it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, like I was saying, we definitely need to see this area more with information and data. This, I think, would make a lot of other traffic conditions, road scenarios much easier to deal with in different areas because these are very challenging. This is the New Jersey, New York, Connecticut area where, traffic is just insane in terms of the different variability of things that could come up and the different types of drivers that drive around here. Obviously, I'm in the middle lane going 65 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone, and people are flying past me. Now, that's common for other areas, Florida, California even, and other places in between, Ohio even. But it's a little bit different here. The roads are a little bit tighter. The lanes are a little bit tighter, right? And then the variability of trucks and vans and moving trucks and regular cars and slow cars and fast cars, et cetera, is a little bit different, a little bit varied in the way that they all drive together, again, in my opinion. All right, so a lot of the functionality that you have with Autopilot right now is courtesy of the Black Tesla team, contributing heavily to where Autopilot / the full self-driving highway variant is today, as well as some other features in the software I'm not going to touch on today, but just understand that we've contributed heavily to that, provided some great insight and feedback for the Tesla team that they have incorporated. Mobile app as well is included. So, we're happy to contribute again here with full self-driving beta and provide some perhaps insight to make it even better. There's lots of things that we can talk about. We're going to make a whole separate video about the things that we can improve, things that we can make better, things that we did not like seeing through the whole year of watching other people test this out in California and other places around the country, and where it is currently right now and what it can do. So stay tuned for that. So this is a use case where we're going home. I'm a little fatigued. Maybe I'm the end of the day of work. I'm tired. I just was at a supercharger, charging up a little bit. I just need to get that last bit home. And that's the scenario here, because you have to think about the use cases for full self-driving. It's not for everything. You don't want to go everywhere with it, because effectively, as it has always been, it's like overseeing a teen driver who just got their license and they're trying to figure things out. The difference is this teen is a machine. It's an AI robot machine guided by a neural net instead of a physical brain. So we have to be able to be conscious of that, and we have to be able to make adjustments and take the necessary effort to monitor it accordingly, which is not as easy as just relaxing and sort of, taking your mind off the road. You have to keep your eyes vigilant. You have to make sure it's doing the right thing at all times. And you have to make sure that the scenario that you're using in it makes sense, right? Don't use it in a construction zone. I don't care how many cones it sees, what the conditions are, just don't use it in a construction zone. Now people are passing pretty quickly. And this is not going around this car. We're just standing here behind this big heavy truck. I'll try to signal to get over, see what it does, see if it can get over. I'm signaling now. Again, go. I'll disengage because someone's flashing me to go. Didn't handle that well, so we need some work there. Okay. Disengaged adaptive cruise control in here. So just a note here, Tesla, you should definitely disengage adaptive cruise control when you disengage autopilot in this whole full self-driving beta or this full self-driving suite. Shouldn't keep one on and disengage the other in this instance when you're on the highway, I think. If you want to then re-engage just adaptive cruise control, you can do that. Coming in pretty hot, very aggressive. Now we're taking the turn, and then we're going to re-engage. So this is where we left off with our last drive, where we sort of had to take over here with autopilot. Now let's see what this city streets variant of full self-driving is going to do in this scenario. Now again, I'm going to be extra vigilant. I know parts are hard to come by for the Plaid Model S right now, so I'm not going to take any real chances here. There is a light coming up. It is going a little bit slower. I'm going to give it some nudge with the accelerator here just to make sure it goes through the light. Okay, and no one's behind me having problems. Now it's going 50. I'm going to slow this down because it shouldn't be going 50. On the city streets, I think we should go back to that offset as well on local roads instead of just letting it be open-ended like it is right now. Now, lines are very hard to see, as you can see. It's doing a pretty good job of extrapolating where it should be, and it's slowing down very nicely. A little hard acceleration, a little hard deceleration, hard braking right here. But otherwise, silky smooth. Loving the graphics, loving the visualization, especially on the Plaid. The silky smooth visualization here is phenomenal. Great job visualizing everything. The brake lights on the cars themselves, the sync, right? The delay between what you see on the screen and what you see in real life has also been reduced as well. Not completely gone, but it's been reduced significantly with this full self-driving beta build. And just again, the confidence of knowing that the car can see all these things around it is very reassuring, very confidence inspiring. All right, flashing yellow lights. What's it gonna do here? Never really handled these really well. It probably still does. I'm gonna press the accelerator a little bit more. I have to help it through here. It wants to slow down. I'm trying to push it with the accelerator to make it go through. It's gonna be a merge here. What is it gonna do? Let's see. Car's behind me. It's merging now. A little bit late. No signal either. Should definitely fix that. We should definitely be signaling at all times. I'm gonna speed up a little bit because people are behind me. I'll go 45. And on the new Plaid, there's no quick way to get your set speed to your whatever your offset is. I have to use the scroll wheel, which is pretty poor. Hopefully Tesla can fix that soon. Goes through this light really well. Again, this is pretty par for the course. The stop sign and stoplight feature prior to this worked pretty well in these scenarios. But again, we're going to be turning soon, so that's going to be the real tell to understand exactly how this is going to work long term with FSD, city streets. All right, so I'm going to be talking about, as we do these drives, I'm not just going to be talking about what the car should have done, how it should have done it. I'm going to be also talking about the good things about it, right? So everyone wants to just drive and criticize it. I want to talk about the good things that it's doing, what I think the car was thinking, and how they should make it adjustments for these different scenarios. So we're going to make a unprotected left turn at a right, at a light coming up soon. So that should be interesting to see how quickly it gets over and gets in. And then we're going to be driving down some roads with no lane markings. So that's also going to be interesting to see how it handles those scenarios. But again, so far so good. I'm impressed. I probably would have been more impressed if this was the first time I'm seeing it versus seeing everything we've seen for the last year. But that's, again, a topic for another video. But otherwise, so far so good, Tesla. This is very reminiscent to early autopilot, where it was just the Wild West and you didn't know what to expect. A little bit more control, a little bit more regimented. Should be getting in this lane. I don't know if it can get there. Let's see if it'll nudge its way there. Still going very slow. I'll give it a little bit of a nudge. It doesn't want to nudge right now. Going slowly. Doesn't know what to do. Don't go over the yellow line. Lots of braking, lots of hesitation, which gives me cause to pause. This is why you don't want to fall asleep on this. And now it's gearing up to make this turn. This is where I'm going to be extra cautious. You see the steering wheel thinking and nudging itself. Stops at the limit line, which is great for the turn. And then it's going to start to creep a little bit because it does see an opening coming up. Creeping, creeping, creeping. Let's see what happens. I'll take my hand off here. Crazy. And then it goes. So a little hesitation here. And I also don't like the fact that it didn't give me a top-down view, bird's eye view of that intersection, so I can clearly see where the car is going to go. There's no lines here. It's trying to extrapolate. It shows a white line, then it shows a yellow line. It's trying to determine what kind of line is actually here. Maybe it can't see it. Driving pretty erratically. Cars are coming. Very scary. Not that it's going to drive me into anything, but just that it might do something evasive that might damage the car and cause me to have to be without a car for a while. Again, disengaging because the yoke was a little bit hesitant. I'll re-engage. See how it finishes this. Stop sign, then it veers off, and then has to make a right. very nervous. Lots of runners in this town, so I don't know how it's gonna handle that. Parked car, is it gonna deal with that well? I don't know. Looking to make this left. Good job on the parked car, good job on the pedestrian running. Hard turn. And we're good. All right, we're not going home just yet. All right, so far so good. First try of Tesla full self-driving / city streets, 10.4. Would love to have gotten this sooner to provide more feedback, but feedback is a-coming, Tesla. You've got some real feedback coming real soon about how to make this a whole lot better than what it is right now. In the interest of making it better for everyone, not in the interest of criticizing it or putting it down or trying to, get some headlines, just for the interest of always doing what we always do, which is help Tesla be successful in what they're putting out in their products. All right, so let me know your thoughts. If you have 10.4, you probably got it before us. We've been sort of, I don't want to say blacklisted, for lack of a better term. But yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know what your experience has been. Let us know if it's useful in its current form or if it's not. Are there any use cases where it is very valuable in its current form? Or do you feel like it's still so early, it's hard to really get a good use case for it? Obviously, it wants to get to the end goal, but in the meantime, there are steps to this. There are levels to this where you can actually make it valuable, make it usable in these scenarios. Again, don't think about yourself. Think about other people. Think about people with disabilities, with handicaps, elderly people that might be able to find this useful at some point. At some point. Not necessarily now, but at some point. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until the next time, enjoy your day. Enjoy your Tesla.